These are the 5 biggest beliefs that every man must overcome if he wants to stop being a nice guy. Welcome back to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Orr. I've coached almost 500 men to regain their power, their presence, and their energy so that they can live a more fulfilling life as husbands, fathers, leaders, business owners, and through their own fulfillment. In this episode, I'm going to share with you the 5 biggest beliefs that I've personally had to overcome and still overcoming, and that I've seen so many other men have to go through, challenge, and overcome if they want to stop being nice guys. Guys that have been the nice guys, that have been the people pleasers, that haven't had boundaries, that don't know how to say no, that have been running off this operating system of, if I please everybody else, if I put everybody else first, then I will get my needs met. I will be loved, I will be valued, I will be appreciated, and it's just not working. Unfortunately, as a nice guy, our operating system is built into, I'm being nice and it's not getting me what I want. Well, I mustn't be nice enough. So I have to be even nicer. I have to sacrifice more. I have to bend over backwards more, do more of what she says, do more without her even asking, do more. But we're trying to trade apples when she wants oranges. We're just communicating in different languages, and it's not getting us what we want. It's not getting us more clients or more money. It's not getting us the intimacy, the love, the connection that we want in our relationship. It's not giving us the fulfillment that we want as a man and in our life. And if you're at this point where you're recognizing that my operating system needs to change, that it's not getting me what I want, then these are the beliefs that we need to overcome if we want to change that. But by acknowledging that system is not getting you what you want and that needs to change is the first point. So we're going to have to completely shift your identity and what you've been operating and how you see your value in yourself up until this point if you want to make this a permanent change. And so everything that I'm about to explain is things that I've personally experienced, things that I've had to go through, still going through for sure. Just like Dr. Robert Glover, I will probably consider myself a recovering nice guy for life. But these are the biggest traits and beliefs that we need to overcome. The first one is, I'm nice. If I'm nice and avoid conflict, I will be loved and appreciated. If I'm nice and avoid conflict, if I don't rock the boat, if I have a challenging or conflicting belief or opinion, I just swallow that. I just smile, nod, and go along with my partner, with the team, with whoever, then I'll be loved, I'll be appreciated. I won't be a moment's problem, and I'll earn that love and get what I want. But let's take it to the extreme. Let's take this to the extreme of someone that says yes to everything, that doesn't have boundaries, that will always tell you what you want to hear despite what they really think or what they really feel. Eventually, to start off with, you might get a little bit of a confidence boost because this person's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, we should do that. You're like, oh, this person's amazing. I get to have my way all the time. Eventually, you get to the point where you realize, I can't trust this person because they will always say yes. They won't tell me what they really think or how they really feel. So how will I know what they really think or really feel? How will I know if they're being genuine in what we're doing or what they say? And how will I know if they're secretly thinking, this guy's an idiot, I don't respect him, I don't trust him, like that's a stupid idea, whatever. But they won't tell me. Creates this huge amount of distrust, a huge barrier. And that's essentially what happens in our relationship. That's what happens with us, right? If we see our internal dialogue as 2 different people, we've got the one that has the feelings, has the thoughts, has the things, like knows who we truly are. And then there's the other one that just says yes to everybody, bend over backwards, does things that he doesn't want to, but does them anyway because he thinks it's good to be liked and it's good to not cause conflict and do all the things. There's disassociation, there's dissonance between those two versions of us. And so it's no wonder we don't trust ourselves, because we can't even speak our truth. What also happens is it starts to keep us passive, and then we become resentful. We become resentful when we don't get the love and appreciation that we thought we would by not rocking the boat. We don't get that love, that admiration, that sex, that intimacy, that client, that pay raise, that outcome that we wanted by not rocking the boat, by keeping the peace. What I've personally found is when I've been avoiding conflict, it's because I didn't know how to handle conflict. I thought conflict was something that needed to be avoided at all costs. It was bad. It was a bad time for the relationship. It meant the relationship was in jeopardy. It meant that someone was going to be right, someone was going to be wrong, and there was going to be this huge catastrophe, right? I was going to get fired. She was going to leave me. Like, there was massive consequences. But really, and that was the extreme, I took everything personally. I would take everything personally. Like, if they disagree with me, it meant that they didn't like me. It meant that they thought I was an idiot. It meant they thought that I was wrong and I was stupid and I was all these things. And that was an attack on me personally. And I didn't know how to defend myself. I didn't know how to communicate my thoughts and feelings well. And so I didn't want to have that conflict. I didn't want to have that criticism. So I would just smile, nod, agree. Realizing that not everything is personal. Most things that we take personally aren't. I heard a reframe the other day, which I thought was brilliant. We often take people take offense. Oh, I take offense to that. Or, they took offense to that wording or that phrase, or, what you said. Offense may have been taken, but it was not given. So the person giving the feedback, the person saying the things, isn't always giving you offense, isn't always trying to offend you. But if we take offense, that's on us. I haven't received, I've taken offense. So that's a us thing, right? That's the us thing to work through, to address, to work on. That's an ownership for a lot of the time, because there's some element of truth to it. I use the example of, like, if I said, hey mate, your purple hair looks fucking stupid, and you're like me, you have basically no hair. You're like, that's a silly comment, because it's not true. But if there was a shred of me that believed that was true, then there's a higher chance I would take offense to that, because I haven't owned it, because I think that I agree with them on some level. So ownership of those traits is a huge pillar to not taking things personally. Because then also it leads into number 2, is my worth comes from what I do, not who I am. That's the belief that we currently have, that we need to change. Because I've given my power to other people to determine my worth. And if they're saying I'm stupid, if they're saying I look funny, if they're saying that's wrong, then that my worth is in alignment with that. It means my worth is going down, my value is going down. It means I'm not worth anything, and I'm invaluable. Not invaluable in a good sense, but like I'm worthless. Because we pride ourselves on how much I can do for my business, how much I can do for my family, how much I can provide, how much money I can provide, how much resources I can provide for my family. What can I do and give and sacrifice? Like, fuck, we're slowly coming out of it now, but that grind culture of the badge of honor of, like, how little did you sleep? How many hours did you work? What did you sacrifice to get to where you are? And it was like a dick measuring contest. Like, if you could say, man, I only slept 1 hour. You slept 1 hour? Man, I haven't slept in 3 days. And just drooling out of their mind, pumped up on stimulants and God knows what else to get this done. And I'm not going to go into that, because I could go down that rabbit hole for ages. But we're then tying our worth of, like, what we do to, and what we provide to who I am. So it's if I'm doing all these things, then I am successful, then I am worthy, then I'm all these things. And so that's why so many guys have trouble. I don't want to say not doing those things, because I'm not trying to say that you need to stop, close your business, quit your job and do all that kind of stuff and go introspect and be like, oh, I'm enough as I am, right? If you are someone that says like, oh, I'm enough as I am or I'm okay just the way I am, as the response to people that are trying to help you work on yourself, that is your ego getting you in the way. You are enough as you are. You are enough for who you are, as in like the person, you are enough as you are, but that does not negate the need for personal development. That does not negate the need for working on your flaws, working to be better, because, oh, I'm enough the way I am, accept me as the way I am. That's a bullshit, lazy approach to someone that doesn't want to take ownership of who they are and their own faults and flaws. Right? So your worth is intrinsic, and this is the big thing that I struggled to learn for so long, is I determine my worth. I determine my confidence, my value, my worth, my validation, all the things. Becoming a man who is self-confident, who is self-valued, who is self-validated, comes an extreme amount of power and unfuckwithable type of energy that no nice guy will ever experience. If we're constantly giving our power away to clients at work, just pay whatever you feel I'm worth, whatever you feel my work is worth, right? Or we'll say what the work is worth, but really what we mean is what I am worth. Oh, just do this, whatever you think is fine. Doing all these things for our partner, for our kids, and then depending on how they respond will determine on if it was a good enough job, and therefore if I am good enough. Always basing those actions off that. But even if we tie this to our relationship, they're not looking for our partner is not looking for someone that they have to validate all the time, that needs to be, told how good of a boy he is, giving him belly rubs and all this stuff. Fuck no. They want a man that is self-assured, that is self-driven, that knows where the fuck he's going, that who he is, what he stands for, and is on that mission, that she can lean in and follow. Essentially, that's why the quote-unquote bad boys will get all the girls. Because you look at the motives of a true bad boy, using this stereotype, they are not behaving that way to get a girl. They are not behaving that way for validation. Or they might be trying to get validation if they're in a gang or a group or something like that, right? But they're not doing it to appease a girl. They're not doing it to make her happy or anything like that. They are doing it because, well, I wanted to, so I did. And that's about as far as it goes. And that level of, I know who I am, where I'm going, I'm doing this because I want to, is the type of energy that we want to embody. You don't have to be a dick about it, but having that level of direction and assertiveness is what is so attractive. When a woman knows that she can pull you off your mission, off your journey, and knows that you just falter to her flirting with you, teasing you, doing whatever, like, he's weak like that. He can be distracted. He's just doing this because he knows that I want it. And she's like, I've got him in the palm of my hand, which is not the kind of man that she actually wants. In another way, the third belief we have to overcome, which is a struggle for a lot of guys, is expressing my needs. The belief we have is expressing my needs is selfish and weak. That emotions are weakness. That vulnerability is weakness. And so we suppress that shit. We suppress our needs. We suppress our emotions because I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to be an inconvenience to anyone around me. And when I first heard about this, I was like, fuck, that's me. I don't express anything. I never say no. I always say yes. I don't have boundaries. And my logical brain just went, okay, well, if the problem is I always say yes, so I'll just start saying no. If the problem is that I don't have boundaries, I'll just set boundaries, right? That makes logical sense. But I did the nice guy thing and did this all in my head and didn't communicate it to my partner or to anyone around me. And so naturally, I swung way too far the other way because I hadn't communicated it. I didn't have the emotional or nervous system regulation to be able to instill these calmly and work with the person, as opposed to what I did was just go so far the other way and just said no, was a dick about it, was very blunt, and was what I thought exercising my masculinity and like trying to do these things that I thought logically that I'd read about is what I needed to do. But again, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And so expressing those needs and those emotions and setting those boundaries and being able to say no, there's a way to do it in which everybody wins. And because I used to think that masculinity was just, well, you get your way. It's not win-win, it's I win, you lose. It's domineering, it's overpowering, it's assertive, it's alpha male. Bullshit. But that's not it at all. That was a hard thing for me to learn. Finding what that actually healthily looks like. Because being able to state our needs clearly and powerfully and grounded requires a regulated nervous system. Our partner or the person we're communicating with is going to be able to tell if we're trying to communicate these needs or these boundaries from a place of passive aggressiveness, from a place of lack, from a place of reactivity, as opposed to calm, grounded, and calculated in a way that is conducive to a constructive conversation. It is constructive to, we're on the same side here against a problem, against an issue, as opposed to, well, when you do this, it makes me feel like this, and I don't want you to do that, and like very you statements, instead of, when this happens, I feel like this. I feel like this. I would like this. This would make me. Keeping it all I statements. Because when we use I statements, and not I feel this because of you, we're not pointing the finger, we're not playing the blame game. We're taking ownership of everything that we're experiencing in our view of the world, and we're just stating our reality. When we use I statements, it's like, I feel this way when. I feel this. I would like this. That's just our reality. No one can deny our reality. No one can say, well, no, you don't. Well, they might, but you can't argue that. Like, that's my reality. And again, that's where we go wrong as nice guys. We often get defensive or try to invalidate our partner's reality. When they say, you don't do this, or this makes me feel like this, we say, oh, well, this, and I did it because of this, or I didn't do it because of this, and blah, blah, blah. We go into, justifying mode or reactive mode and get defensive about it. And what happens then? She gets frustrated, she gets annoyed because you're not fucking listening, because you're trying to justify everything and you're not hearing what she's trying to communicate. You're not feeling what she's trying to communicate, because she just wants to feel heard. She just wants to feel validated. It may not align with your version of reality, and that's fine. That's a later conversation. But to deny her reality is where a lot of these arguments come from. And so finding ways to regulate our nervous system, go into our body and be present with, okay, what am I feeling? What is the need that's not being met, or the reason that I'm being triggered, or whatever I'm feeling right now? How can I communicate this in a way that is constructive and lets the person know what I'm feeling and what's going on here, that isn't a blame game, and that can help us work through this? And to be honest, some of the time it may not even be a them thing. It might just be a communication of, this is something that I'm feeling. I'm feeling quite triggered right now. I'm not quite sure why. When this was said, I really felt this, and I just want to sit with that for a little bit. Okay. An example of this happened a few weeks ago. So, a friend of mine was saying how his wife kept asking him, like, oh, he was getting his feeding his son, right? So he was setting up the high chair, getting the food, and his wife was like, do you need help with that? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And trying to be helpful. And he started getting triggered. He was getting frustrated. He's like, no, I don't need help. I can do it. And he was like, well, that was a bit unnecessary. Why did that happen? And so he sat with it. And he's like, why did that trigger me? And he got to the point where he realized, he's a very self-aware man, by the way, so he was able to do this quite easily. But he realized that by her asking those questions, he was taking that as her saying, you're incapable, that he was incompetent, that he was incapable of feeding their child by himself and needed her help. Now, was that what she was really communicating? Probably not. But that's the way that he interpreted it, and that's why he got triggered. When we're present and self-aware and have the mental frameworks to be able to work through things like that and get to that point of that's why, we can then take that to our partner and then this is not a, well, don't say this because this triggers me, because again, that's not helpful. We want to take ownership of everything and change it for ourselves. A good analogy here that I heard recently about triggers, and this plays perfectly into what I just said, is too many people try to remove the trigger of what set them off, right? If we think of a trigger as a loaded gun, right? Too many people will try and remove the thing that set the trigger off. So they'll remove the trigger, they'll remove the finger, they'll remove those things and blame, because that's blaming other people. Well, if you don't say this, I won't be triggered. If I'm not in this situation, I won't be triggered. If this doesn't happen, then I won't be triggered. And that's very victimhood, nice guy mentality. Instead, what if we just take the ammo out of the barrel? We take the bullets out, so there is nothing to be set off. So we can get triggered all day long by people, by things, by situations, by inconveniences, by whatever, but there's nothing to be set off because I've owned it, because I'm regulated, because I'm present. You might get that flinch of like, ooh, that stung a little bit. And then you'll find something that you haven't owned, something that you haven't looked at, that you've brushed under the rug. Wonderful. Thank you for that, for bringing that to my attention. The trigger is the teacher. Every time you get triggered, there's something for you to learn. That's a high level of consciousness frame. But thinking like that will take you out of blame game, out of the lower vibrational way of thinking and operating, and into this level of growth and self-actualization that not many humans will experience. Now, moving on, number 4. I've already touched on this, but this was a difficult one to swallow, that masculine power is dangerous and harmful. Belief number 4, masculine power is dangerous and harmful. Again, completely wrong definition of what masculinity was. I thought to be masculine, you were like that alpha guy that's overpowering, that's domineering, that's loud, that's just brute force, that's just like yap, 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 in your face, just very his way or the highway, motors through things. That's what I thought it was. Arrogant as well. And so through a few experiences with people like that in my childhood, I was like, I never want to be like that person. I'd felt what it was like to be on the receiving end of someone like that. And I was like, I felt horrible. I felt belittled. I felt invalued. I felt all these things. I never want to make anyone feel like that. So I'm going to go so far the other way, which meant I'm going to be shy. I'm going to be introverted. I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to say what I think. I'm not going to do all these things because I didn't know what healthy masculinity was. I couldn't tell the difference between arrogance and confidence. So I went so far the other way, which wasn't helpful either. True masculinity, healthy masculinity, is control and discipline of oneself, is having direction and having purpose, is grounded, is embodied, but is not reactive, is not overpowering, still has a high emotional intelligence, is still empathetic. Healthy masculinity is getting your way and making it feel like everybody else's idea too. Is being able to listen to people, but still hold your ground. Being sure in who you are, being self-confident, self-validating, self-assured, and having that unfuckwithable energy of, I know where I'm going, you can't stop me. And not being a bully about it, but not wavering on your values or your boundaries. Having those boundaries clearly communicated as well. Because when we have those communicated and we fucking stick to them, everyone knows exactly where they stand. I don't know if you've met anyone like this, or you have anyone in your life that is that level of honest and will tell you the truth that you may not always like. And you probably said things about this person like, fuck, I don't agree with everything he says, but fuck, I respect him. Or I didn't want to hear that, but I know it. I at least know he's being honest. I know he's telling me the truth. Because you know that person won't sugarcoat it. That you can trust what that person says because you know it's what they really think. Because they don't give a fuck how you respond. Because it's you who has taken offense, not them who has given the offense. And there's a huge level of respect and trust with that kind of man. Like we said before, as opposed to the man that doesn't have trust or respect or doesn't even get the love because he's trying to people please everyone. Because he can't trust if what he's saying is true or not. He's two-faced. He'll say one thing to you and a completely different thing to somebody else because he thinks that's what they want to hear. He's just being that chameleon. He's untrustworthy. And so the final belief that we need to overcome as nice guys is, if I can just do everything right, I'll finally be enough. If I can be perfect, if I can get everything right, then I will be enough. Then I will be worthy. Then my life will be fulfilled. My relationships will be better, will be deeper, will be more intimate. My business will grow. I will make more money. I will feel fulfilled. I'll be healthier. I will achieve everything in life because I'll be perfect. Perfection is unattainable. And it's that belief that stops us from doing things, that stops us from speaking out, it stops us from taking action, it stops us from starting new things, because we either think, well, if I'm not perfect at it, then I will be wrong, I'll be rejected, and that's bad. Or that if I'm not perfect at it, or if I can't be perfect at it, then don't bother starting, because it's perfect or nothing. This perfectionism mindset, which inhibits so many people. It's not really perfectionism, you're just afraid of failing, because you'll never be perfect. Nothing will be perfect. There was a study on this arts class, and they split the class into two groups. It was a pottery class, and they were given one assignment each for the term. All right, so they had, 10 weeks, I think it was, to complete this task. One group was assigned with, you need to make one perfect mug. Just one mug, but it has to be perfect. Right? Just one perfect mug. That's all you need to do. Sounds simple. Second group was tasked with, in this term, you need to make as many clay mugs as you possibly can. As many as you can. So just sheer volume. Now, what they were measured on obviously wasn't quantity, but quality. At the end of the term, who do you think made a better clay mug? The group that was tasked with just making one, or that had to go for sheer volume? Volume. The class that made the most mugs each had the most amount of opportunities to learn, to get better, to get faster, to figure out what was going wrong and to fix it and adjust it, and just get better. So not only did they make more, which was obvious, but their best mug was so much better than the class who only had one, who put all this time and effort into making this one thing perfect. And so if we're worried less about perfection and more on just being better, then we can start to move forward. But again, we need to be able to regulate our nervous system enough to take this feedback, to be okay with, okay, well, that action wasn't good enough, but that doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. And that's a frame that's really helped me in this space, because I've been able to differentiate between an action and me. In the sense that, if you're, for example, shooting basketball hoops, right? If you're standing at the free throw line and you're trying to shoot hoops, okay, depending on how good a shot you are, then you have a go. If it goes in, beautiful. Okay, that was quote unquote good enough, right? Because you got the result. Now, if you don't get it, does that mean that you are then not good enough? It means that action, the way that you shot that ball, was not good enough. Maybe there was an imbalance between your hands. Maybe you just didn't do it hard enough. You did it too soft. Your accuracy was off. There was all these other things that, in that moment, to achieve that result, were not good enough. But it doesn't mean that you are not good enough. And so, when I've been able to differentiate between those, it means that, okay, that action was not good enough. I can improve that action. I can do more of that thing to make that action better, to get the result that I want. It does not mean that I am not good enough. Because enoughness comes from integrating our shadow, owning our truth, and then also choosing wholeness over performance, over perfection. Like, we are always going to have things that we're not great at. And that's okay. We don't have to be perfect. No one wants it perfect anyway. Like, think about how unrelatable that is in any sense. Like, if look at stories, right? Imagine a story where the prince goes up to the girl, or like the poor boy goes up to the princess, gets down on his knee, proposes, or asks her out, or goes to kiss her, asks her to dance, whatever it is, and she says yes, falls in love with him, he gets upgraded to the palace, and they live happily ever after. Oh, well, that was pretty fucking boring. Or the guy that just starts one business and literally overnight becomes a billionaire. Well, you can't really learn much from that. It's not very relatable. It's pretty boring too. That's why we like the outliers. And so the challenge of life is like all these opportunities to learn, to grow better. And when we see that as opportunities, not challenges, not these self-deprecating, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm this and that. Awesome. That action isn't good enough, but you can work on that. You can change that. Again, this comes back to being that self-confident, self-validating man who's deciding on his worth, on his value for himself, not based on the things that he does. And being okay with not being perfect. Because being perfect is just an excuse, as a goal post that we will never actually reach. And these are some of the beliefs that might trigger some people, right? These might be part of your core identity of who you've been this last however many years, and you don't subscribe to that, and that's totally cool. But for me personally, and the guys that I've worked with, these are the beliefs that we need to overcome, or at least start to let go of, if we want to separate ourselves from that nice guy identity, start to move into that powerfully present, grounded, masculine energy, and have a chance at getting what we want in life. Because we have to face the reality of, if you're not where you want to be, if you don't have something that you want to have, and you've been trying to get it, your current operating system of these nice guy traits is not working. And the first part of breaking that nice guy trait and self-belief is recognizing that those traits are not getting you what you want. Because like I said, the typical nice guy response is, it's not getting me what I want, go harder, do more of it. And so that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we become nicer and it separates us more. The amount of guys I've spoken to recently that have had something happen in their marriage or their relationship, maybe someone cheated, or maybe something happened at work, or there was this catalyst in life and they thought their relationship was kind of slipping, and they wanted to earn that trust, that love, that intimacy back. And so they've doubled down on being the nice guy, on people pleasing, on giving her everything that she wants. And instead of bringing them back together and getting them what they want, it's actually made it worse. They've actually started bickering more. They've actually felt more distant, more disconnected, instead of the opposite, what they were hoping for. And it's not through, obviously, lack of intent. It's just we have an operating system of getting what we want that doesn't work. And so when we can recognize that and be like, okay, this is not working, what else can I do? Well, this is where you start. These are the beliefs that we need to change, and then consequently through changing those beliefs, we can change our actions and then get different results. So I hope that's helpful. I hope this helps you to rethink some of those beliefs and operating systems you might have been operating on up until this point. But remember, it's not about what you learn. It's not about what you know or what you think you know logically. It's about what you action and actually implement. Because listening to all the podcasts in the world, listening to all the books, the resources, the courses, the things will not change your life if you do not change your actions. So now you've got these beliefs. Pick one that you've heard from this and see where you can change that. Maybe you start with regulating your nervous system so you can not take things so personally. Maybe you start with owning some of those triggers that routinely set you off, some of those, that big five that is always hits a nerve in you. Maybe it's just working on that self-confidence or that ability to say no from a grounded, level-headed, stoic space. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you. So either send me a message, or if there's someone, actually, what's even better is if you know someone that is operating from this system, someone that would greatly benefit from hearing some of these beliefs that they hold as their truth and as their values, their virtues is the word I'm looking for, as their virtues. Share this with them. If they're not in the place that they want to be, if they're silently frustrated or irritable or operating off that nice guy system, share this podcast with them so that we can start to help break down some of those beliefs and give them a chance at getting what they want in life. Because the more guys that break free of this nice guy operating system, which is not very nice, and into that more empowered, masculine, energetical state, the more we all benefit. And so, like always, don't be sorry, be better, go take action. See you.